Okay. Hi.
Hello. Good day.
Okay. So I'm just gonna ask you a few questions. What is the meaning of your tattoo?
There's no real meaning behind it. It's just artwork that I've been wanting to get done for a while now. It's basically just New York City getting invaded by aliens. But I've actually wanted this done since I was like 14. But I don't think tattoos necessarily need a meaning behind them. It's more of like an form of art,
Yeah.
if anything.
Okay. And are you currently employed right as of now?
Yes, I work technically 3 jobs.
Okay. Yeah. So, how has tattoo stigma affected you?
What do you mean affected me?
Like, have you had anyone necessarily like come up to you and like address you about it? Or
Plenty of
have
people have complimented me. I've noticed certain times in stores when I'm cashing out, people will stare, but it's more or less, I don't know if they're just, checking it out, like what it actually is. Because if you first initially look at it, it's more or less one of those tattoos that aren't necessarily like a bunny rabbit or like something silly and like, like Legend of Zelda symbol. It's more or less a city burning and on fire. So I'm sure when people get a first glance, they're like, what is that? But I've never had anyone, talk down upon it, except for my parents, of course. But, that's because they're parents and,
they specialize in. Yeah, so have you necessarily like noticed if any of the people that might have been looking at it for an extended period of time, like, were people of the older generation maybe?
Like, were offended by it?
Well, just like you saw people sort of lingering on it. Do you think?
It's funny that you say that because I go to a lot of music festivals over the summer. A lot of I went to Peach Fest and Mountain Jam last year, and there's a couple I went to a year before that, but I didn't have this done the year before that. But when I went over the summer, most of the people that were there, so many people complimented on it. So many, and it's surprising. Like a lot of people of the older generation actually tend to compliment. The younger people more, but older people tend to usually compliment. I feel like it's one of those things that tattoos are becoming a lot more acceptable.
It's interesting you feel that way. What were some of the obstacles you could face before considering getting a tattoo? Like, did you have any doubts about maybe getting a job because you got a tattoo?
Basically, when I think about jobs and tattoos, I don't usually correlate them together because I would never work for a place that wouldn't hire me because of my tattoos. And plus, there's a lot of laws being placed now where, in San Francisco, for instance, you can live there and you can have body piercings, jewelry of any kind, tattoos, and be a doctor. You can have any profession, and there's no discrimination.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Even though I'm sure the employer at times can just choose not to hire you based on that information. But I mean, I feel like it's becoming a lot more acceptable, especially with our generation and our probably past people who are in their 30s now are much more comfortable with tattoos than.
Hi.
Okay, so how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
And how many tattoos do you have?
I've got 3.
Okay. Have you ever faced any stigma related to your tattoos? Has anyone commented on them, negatively or positively?
Most of the comments I get are positive. Oh, hey, that's some pretty cool artwork you got, bro. But then, a lot of the older people I associate with, especially my mother and people in her church friend group, are oh, I don't know why you mark yourself up like that. Satanists do that, and they're very against it. But for the most part, the general reaction is usually positive or just no reaction at all.
Okay, so you definitely feel like it's the older generation mainly that doesn't approve of it?
Most definitely.
Yeah, and do you feel like you faced any discrimination in the workplace because of your tattoos?
I have never faced any problems in the workplace with it, but then again, I work at Target, so that's pretty low standards to begin with. Everyone there has tattoos anyway.
Okay.
I don't really have any problems getting business with my personal businesses or whatever. It's just something that people are like, oh, hey, that's a neat thing. Either you cover them up or you don't cover them up. But I've never had an instance where it's become a problem.